Hey everyone, welcome to Author Nation. This is week 4 of our 90-day challenge, and I'm really excited because this is for me, this is like a really exciting, important week. Week 1, we talked about you. We talked about your why. What was, why are you going to put all this time and energy into writing a book? And then week 2, we talked about your audience. Why would they put the time and energy into reading the book? Where were they at the beginning of the book? Where do they want to be at the end of the book? What do they want to know? What do they want to be able to do? What do they want to feel? What do they want to do? Who do they want to be? And then what is that bridge that you need to build? What is that promise? What are those outcomes? And then last week we did gathering your information. So you went and gathered, coffee napkins or on your computer, in your journal, you kind of gathered all of that information. So now you've done all that. This week, we're going to outline and plan your book. So I want you to keep you and your audience in mind. I want you to pull all that information out, whether it's on your computer. I mean, don't print it, but just like have it in mind what's going on. Print, if you have to print it out, but if not, just keep it there. Your journals, your coffee napkins, like pull all of this together. Your research things that your journal articles you've found. I want you to then, thinking of your mind maps and thinking of your flow charts and the tree diagrams from last week, start putting them in piles, things that are related. All of these things go together, and all of these things to go together. And this is really one subject. Start putting them all into areas. Like this is a pile, this is a pile, this is a pile. Each pile will represent a different subject matter or a different piece of the whole, a different part of the promise. So do that. And when you've done that, grab either some sticky notes or index cards, whatever you want, things that you can move around. And for each pile, I want you to take an index card or a sticky note and say, this pile is about this, or this pile, this is what's going on. This is how this fulfills the promise. Like just write something about that. Why did you put them all together? Write that on the index card or the sticky note. Do that for each pile. When you're done that, I want you to take all of these. If they're sticky notes, you can put them up on your wall. If they're index cards, you can lay them out on a table, and you're like, okay, these are all the important parts of the book. These are essentially my chapters. How do I organize them? Is there a chronological order here that I want to stick to? Is there a logical step by step to get to the outcome? Is there like an order of importance or complexity? Are some things far more complex than others? Are some areas far more important than others? So is there least important to most or most complex to least? Start organizing. You can also classify. So what if you go through and I'm like, okay, these 4 index cards to go together and these 5 index cards to go together. So now I have a book that has a part 1 and a part 2. And in those 2 parts, there are 4 chapters in one and 5 chapters in another. So that'll, classifying them. These are all belong to this class. This is this class, or inductive versus deductive, inductive, right? Specific to the broad, deductive, broad to the specific. So start figuring out the order. And I like doing this with index cards or sticky notes because like sticky notes, you put them on the wall and then you can like move them around. You can say, order of importance, for example, or order of complexity. I'll put them from the most complex to the least complex. I'll see how that looks. And then I'll do it the other way. Or sometimes I'll say, okay, you can't just have all the complex stuff right at the beginning because then people are like overwhelmed. It's too much to read. And so, but this particular chapter in order of need, that's got to come first. So I'm going to start with a complex chapter and we're going to put it here. And then I'm going to have a less complex chapter because it's a little overwhelming for the reader. So whatever it works, just start giving them orders, right? So now you have chapter ideas. Now you have the order of the chapters. What I want you to do now is take one pile that represents one chapter and go through a very similar process. How does this chapter help with the overall outcome of the book? What is the promise of this chapter to the entire book? And then you can break down the information in this chapter. How do I divide this chapter up into information? How does that work? You mind map that, flow chart that, do a tree diagram for that. And when that's done, you can start adding headings and subheadings and sections and subsections or whatever you want to call them. And now you've got a chapter heading and you've got some subheadings. Put that chapter aside, pick another one, and go through that until you've done all of the chapters and write that all down. And now you have chapter headings, and for each chapter heading, you have subtitles or subheadings and headings and subsections. Now you have a first draft outline for your book. Is it perfect? No. Is it flawed? Yes. And that's okay, because you need to start from somewhere. This is the one thing, a lot of authors, it's like, I have to get it right first before I start writing. No, you don't. In fact, what is most important is that you get something down to just jump off from. That's all you're doing. You just want something down to jump off of. Because when you're holding it all in your head, as an editor, I can't help you. No editor can. So if you can get it down, and then you can start writing. It doesn't matter if it's in the right order, if it doesn't matter if it's perfect, it's down on paper. And once you have a manuscript down on paper, people can read it for you, colleagues, friends, you can hire an editor. All these people can read it for you and give you advice about revising it, changing the order, adding things, subtracting things. So is it flawed? I hope so. Is it perfect? I hope not. It doesn't matter. You just want to start writing. So what do we do now? Right, so you have a draft. Guess what? We start writing. And so I have a question for you. Can you write 1,000 words a day? And you might say, Melody, what is 1,000 words a day? 1,000 words a day is 3 pages, double-spaced, point 12, 12-point font. Arial, let's say, or Times Roman numeral, doesn't matter. It's about 3 pages a day, double-spaced, 12-point. Can you write 1,000 words a day? Because if you can, then you're going to get that book done within our 90-day challenge. So if you write 1,000 words a day for 45 days, you will have a first draft manuscript of 45,000 words. And I hope it's a terrible draft. It should be a terrible draft, because the first drafts, they're terrible. The best first drafts are terrible. They're just like blah, getting all that information out. I always think of it as, you've got this potter and they have this wheel, and they're like, oh, I want to make this perfect vase. I can't put clay on it until it's perfect. It's like, no, you take a lump of clay and you go thump, and you have this lump of clay. And only when you have that clay on the wheel spinning, even if it's off center and it's not perfect, you have something to work with. And if it's not right, the potter takes it off and thump, puts it on until it's in center, and only then can she start working it. Writing is the same way. Only when you got to get the information out can you start working with it. So your next job is to start writing 1,000 words a day for 45 days. From now, where are we? April 28th? April 28th, yes. There are 63 days from now until the end of June. So your challenge is to write 1,000 words a day for 45 out of those 63 days. So you can take weekends off. That's your challenge. Are you up for it? I hope so. Drop it in the comments. Yes, I'm going to do it. So today's April 28th. What you need to do now is start writing 1,000 words a day. In 45 days, you will have a first draft. So what are we going to do from now? You're like, okay, challenge, Melody. What are you going to do from now on? I have a whole new series for you in May. In May 5th, we're going to talk about developing your writing practice. That's going to help you if you're struggling with that. Like, how do I develop this practice where I write 1,000 words a day? May 5th, that's what we're doing. May 12th, we're going to deal with writer's block. What's getting in your way? May 18th, we're going to talk about alternatives to writing alone. There are other ways. You don't need to sit in your attic or down in the corner of your basement and write a book. There are lots of other ways to get this done. So if you don't feel like you're a quote unquote writer, that will help you. And then finally, May 26th, just in time, I'm going to talk about staying motivated and staying accountable. Usually about a month in, you're 30 days in, that's when it's like we're halfway through. That's when it's like, oh, this is getting hard. And you hit that that wall, right? Or Seth Godin calls it the dip. You're going, you're going, you're going, you're going. It's okay. And then all of a sudden, boom, and it's hard. And you've got to climb your way back out of that. So on May 26th, we're going to be talking about staying motivated and staying accountable. But from now until then, jump on it, organize your book, however, be as flawed as you can, organize it, and then use that organization to jump off and start writing. I don't care if you write chapter 10 before you write chapter 3. It doesn't matter. Just every day, come in and say, what do I want to write about today? I'm going to grab that. I'm going to write about that. And you go. You don't think, you just go and you just start writing. That is your challenge. I hope this has been helpful. I would love a thumbs up. I'd love to know how things are going. Please drop me a comment. And of course, if you're loving this and you'd like more, go to the YouTube channel Author Nation and please subscribe. I will see you next week.